the #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.
Good morning and welcome to episode 210 of Costa Rica Real Estate and Investments with me, your host, Richard Bexon. I hope everyone is having a great day. It's nice and sunny here in Costa Rica. We are kicking off one of our Arenal projects here, which is a fractional ownership, where basically we have 11 shares available for $100,000, and you become a part owner in a titled property. It's a 5-bedroom luxury villa with a stunning view in the heart of Arenal. So if anyone's interested, email us info@investingcostarica.com. That's info@investingcostarica.com. Today, we're going to be talking with Gabriel Saragovia. We had him on the podcast a while back. It was probably a year or maybe 2 years back, but he's one of the visionaries behind Rio Perdido Hotel in Costa Rica, also board member of the famous Tabacon Resort, and one of the country's leading eco-wellness experts, in my opinion. So we're going to be talking to him about what's going on in tourism and also wellness here in Costa Rica. So let's get straight into the podcast. Good morning, Gabriel. How are you doing?
Doing very well, my brother. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, man. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here on the podcast. And yeah, I like to call you one of the gurus and leaders of eco-wellness here in Costa Rica. Whether you like it or not, that's what I call you. So
I'm sporting a tan right now, but if I wasn't, you would see that I was blushing.
Well, the question I love to ask everyone at the start of the podcast is, we had a good start, I think, to 2024. High season was good. I think we're starting to see a little bit of a return to seasonality. Markets in the US are starting to softening a little bit. But I mean, what are you seeing happening here in Costa Rica?
Well, yeah, I've told a lot of people that I believe that the party's over. That doesn't mean, that we're descending into darkness, but I think the post-COVID party that Costa Rica felt. And it sounds like a jerk thing to say when so many countries around us are still suffering a pandemic to this point. But we had such a boom after pandemic that, yeah, we've been in a 3-year situation where every month beats the previous month. Yep. And I believe that has stopped. Probably sometime around April, it took the downswing. And what I'm seeing and what a lot of my colleagues are seeing, even the most successful hotels are seeing slight differences. We're seeing dailies that are low.
Yep.
Selling for the future. That's not where it should be or not where it was expected to be. I don't think many budgets are being respected.
Yep.
I think that it's definitely, but again, numbers are good. Costa Rica is not, not yet through any type of crisis. It's still growing.
Yeah, I mean, I like to refer it to we've returned to pre-COVID seasonality, just the tide is higher.
I agree with you completely.
And we knew this was going to happen. I think that my concern is people that don't understand that that's where we are, or that invested over the previous 6 months or 12 months in thinking that that's going to continue and have made some faux pas, because that's where it could be very difficult.
Well, even though we had clarity that things were going to slow down a little bit, we've invested heavily very recently.
Yeah.
I think we all believe in Costa Rica. I do think we have to be conscious and careful.
Yeah.
And also for the sake of the country. We love this country. We don't want to, the last thing I want to see for Costa Rica, which is already happening in a lot of towns, especially beach towns, is to see another Tulum. I don't know if I can say that on a podcast, but
yeah, 100%.
A shit show. And there's a lot of places like that. Over-tourism is now like a very common word.
Yeah.
And it's affecting the whole world. I don't want to see that for Costa Rica more than it has already occurred.
Yeah, I would like to think that Costa Rica has a natural filter, and I say it's more kind of bureaucracy for it not being overdeveloped, if that makes sense, because it's not easy to do stuff here.
Listen, we've spoken before, and I've told you how much the government is a rock in my shoe. And there's so many of us, mid-level developers that are not huge and not tiny, that are often complaining about the government. But by the same token, this is the same government that through whatever you want to call it. Definitely bureaucracies in the mix, but the formula is complicated, and that's part of the difficulty and the filter that you mentioned.
Correct.
That keeps this country green. It's not just, hey, we decided to have 25 or 30% of our land protected. We also made a crazy amount of laws that and processes for permitting
Yep.
that are, that are helping keep the country green.
Yeah, I mean, if it was easy, this country would be overdeveloped. Like it would be, and some people may even say it is overdeveloped in some areas, and maybe that is true, but yeah, it's not easy to make a quick buck in this country if you do not know what you're doing.
Yep, this is something that anybody that, well, I think people that are coming to Costa Rica to kind of test the waters out feel that.
Yeah,
I don't think we progressed past the point where, a lot of Europeans or Americans were coming in and losing their shirt.
Yeah,
there was a whole term coined in the book and all that, and they were coming here and they were just having a bad time. But now I think it's common knowledge that you got to be well connected and you got to know your stuff.
Yep, 100%. So, I mean, I'm always interested of like where the inspiration for Rio Perdido came from, because again, I mean, you guys created a destination there, like you really did. There was nothing around there beforehand, and you guys kind of put that area on the map. And I know so many, hoteliers here that have very successful hotels that have taken arrows building destinations and still taking arrows, and it's not been successful. So, I mean, where did that inspiration or the idea for Rio Perdido come from?
Okay, so I think there's two questions there. So, a lot of people will kind of force an investment to happen.
Yep.
As you know, I have traversed the land. I'm not going to say I know all 55,000 square kilometers of Costa Rica, but I've, been from one end to the other. And the generations before me as well, as you know, have started projects in destinations that are now very well known, but at the time they were not really on the map.
Yeah.
So I would say it's in the lineage, but it's also in that natural desire to want to get to know places, to be an adventurer. And I had been in Miravalles, that part where Rio Perdido is located, near the Miravalles volcano, about 15 years ago, and thought, wow, what a beautiful part of the country. What a different part of Guanacaste. When people think of Guanacaste, they think of those savannas and, these dry tropical forests going into the water. You kind of have like this picture of the vaqueros, of
the cowboys.
The cowboys. And that is very much Guanacaste. When you go east of Liberia, you find this amazing volcanic sierra, and it's beautiful, and it's very inspiring, that on its own.
Yeah.
So as you said, I think before, we were actually looking to do another project that still hasn't been done.
Yep.
And kind of got distracted because in finding this place, Rio Perdido, we just thought it was, number one, unreal, like beautiful, very different. So even Costa Ricans, friends of mine that were born and bred here and that travel quite a bit, find it to be exotic. So in seeing this amazing land, we kind of said, we have to pause everything that we're doing right now. We got to focus on this. And that was obviously the spark of the inspiration.
And you never thought that, look, this might not be the best idea, building something in the middle of nowhere. And it's not in the middle of nowhere, but building a destination. Yeah,
man. I mean, your mind and, is always saying, don't do that.
Yeah.
Do not do this. But obviously your heart, your spirit, the way you feel that you're like, this is an amazing area. All the land is, available. It's not a national park. It's not owned by somebody that's, asking for figures that are unpayable. You've got these natural qualities that are, not only spectacular, but unique. That's, singularity is a very important edge in any competitive situation.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to get seen and to have, word of mouth and stuff like that, obviously you got to do all your homework and do things right. But if you have something that's wow, that is inspiring to me, and I know will be inspiring to others, or I've been in this I've been in this long enough to know that something that really gets me here is probably going to have a similar effect in a lot of conscious-minded travelers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, that's a very unique piece of, even if I just talk of property, just because I mean, hot springs coming out of a cold flowing river is like just very, I've never seen that before.
Cool. And you know, it's funny because just like a lot of Americans haven't seen, you know, a dragon fruit, or they don't know what a coffee bean looks like, or they have no idea that cacao comes from this beautiful yellow fruit with white pulp.
Yep.
Americans haven't seen springs unless you're like from North Dakota or from, I don't know, I could say that some New Yorkers from like North Fork or places like that, it might have seen a spring at some point, or people that live in northern Florida, but all the South Floridians that generally don't leave South Florida to drive north,
Yep.
they've never seen springs. So for them to be in this canyon, deep canyon, and see like water gushing out of a rock wall, like hot water,
Yep.
it's definitely something that they're not used to. And it's very beautiful. It's nice to see the effect that that has on somebody.
Well, and I mean, I also
seeing a sloth for the first time.
yeah, and I mean the location really is smart though as well, because again, you guys are half, like you're not that far from the Liberia airport. So, you know, usually
Right.
people that come to Costa Rica are doing 2 or 3 nights somewhere and then over to the beach for, you know, 3 nights. So yeah, I mean it's a shorter trek than hour and hour.
You know, we talk a lot about inspiration and we talk about just doing things because they seem right. Of course, if you know, if Rio Pedido was 3-4 hours from the closest airport, we would have probably not even thought twice about it. We would have
Yep.
said no, or you know, said we're going to make our own little, you know, weekend home here or something, but not try to actually haul people out here. That's why I have so much respect for people that are doing projects in OSA and doing well.
Yep.
Because you know, I'm not going to say that we're not proud and you know of what we've done, but we have a factor that's on our side, which, as you mentioned, we're an hour from the Liberia airport. These
Yep.
guys are doing stuff that you have to get on a little plane or a boat or then another car, and it's just like a whole day traveling, and
Yep.
people are going there. Hats off. That's pretty cool.
Let's change gears a little bit and talk about wellness, because I know that you're you know, you're in this world. I mean, what is it and how has it evolved in Costa Rica? Like, where are we today? And I mean, I know this is like, where do you think it's going? But like, what is it? Like, where are we today and where do you think it's going?
Okay, where it's going and where is it in Costa Rica is kind of like a question that I think could be standard or general.
Yep.
What I think wellness is a very personal question, and I don't know. I'm gonna start with that.
Yep.
I think it was your first question. I think wellness in a perfect world wouldn't be a genre.
Okay.
It wouldn't even exist as this subdivision of travel, which has grown exponentially since COVID, since the whole pandemic. But it's still, like I said, in a more conscious world, I think it would disappear. And I'll tell you why. Because I think the driving factor for every good vacation is based on wellness.
Yep.
I don't care who you are. And later I'll tell you something that we call passive wellness, which is very related to this. But it doesn't matter if you're like a beer drinking frat boy that has a month to take an awesome vacation, or if you're a yogi from California and need to do like your yoga training. At the end of the day, those two very different travelers are going for wellness reasons.
Yep.
Obviously, wellness can be everything from connecting with someone that you're traveling with, partner, your family, your kids, whatever, friends. It could be coming here to connect with Costa Ricans, and Costa Ricans, once they open up to you, are very warm and healthy and intelligent people, and, you know, educated. So those two different types of travelers are coming for wellness. And you know, wellness is so many things. It's not really about going to do exercise and eating low carb diet. That used to be the thing. It has progressed, it has evolved to really encompass every good aspect of life, of living. So if you're a conscious traveler, you're traveling for wellness.
Yep.
So that's what I think about wellness. I think that it's going to continue to grow as a genre of travel, but at some point, it's just, I'm not going to say it's going to disappear. People are still going to refer to it, but I think it's going to kind of start to meld into good travel.
I completely agree. You know, I go on vacation to be present, if that makes sense, to attempt to be present, because in my business, in my daily life, I'm so focused. Like it's very difficult for me to be present. And I think that that's one of the things that vacations allow you to do, is to stop and be present and take in everything around you, whether that be your family, your environment, the sounds, etc. So I agree.
That presence, again, sometimes you talk about balance and all these people are like, oh, these guys are getting into the whole spiritual, talk. I don't want to listen to that. But, presence is what makes you feel good when you're at a party, when you're, laying down in a beach or playing a sport. That's presence. When people talk about Michael Jordan being in the zone back in the day, he's in the zone, his tongue is out. Man,
Yep.
that guy was present.
Yep.
He was there. And if you're present in a vacation, you rest. If you're not present in a vacation, you come back home and you need another vacation, to get over your so-called vacation. So presence is not a spiritual word. Presence just means wellness. It means health. It means, just decompressing.
But I also think that their primary motive for vacation is that wellness, if that makes sense. Meaning that like you can go on vacation and wellness is part of it, but it might not be the primary motivator, if that makes sense. It's like you may come to Costa Rica for nature or seeing like culture, etc.
You just define passive wellness. We have this thing at Rio Pedido that we call passive wellness. And basically it's in the most simple sense, it's like you might have come here for whatever reason, but when you leave here, when you leave our place, you're going to feel better. And even if you don't know why, that's passive wellness. We're going to give it to you, even if you're not looking for it, if you're not actively paying for it, you're going to get it.
So, I mean, I think we know where we are today in Costa Rica with wellness. I mean, it's if you roll back the clock 20 years ago, people weren't really talking about it as much. Now today, and I remember being in the ICT, it was part of something that they were trying to grow in Costa Rica. It was a small part, and I mean, it's really become a mecca for wellness. And when I say wellness, I mean that can be anything from ayahuasca retreats to just yoga to being outside in nature and forest bathing and just being in the river and those kind of things. Where do you think it's going to go?
So it's really cool that Costa Rica is like this, because I think there's people now in the United States, in Switzerland, in different parts of Asia that are now they were talking about wellness 5 decades, 6 decades ago.
Yeah.
And more. If you go to like Baden-Baden and these places, they've been doing wellness for, generations. So, it's really cool that now a lot of these countries are studying us and saying, what happened here? And I think that one of the things that happened here is what we talked about before. There's a lot of passion. There's a lot of different disciplines and philosophies and just, outlooks coming together here. So that's continuing on where is Costa Rica now, but it sets a very good stage into where it's going. I think that we are this mecca for wellness. And now a lot of people want to they're like, oh, we did this. Now we got to get serious. Now we got to get studious. Now we got to make sure the formula is repeated and continues to evolve. So now that they see it and know what happened and happened pretty organically, now everybody wants to get a little bit more formal with it. But we got to be careful, because by getting too formal with it, we'll stop those natural, beautiful tendencies that make a place so successful in what is happening.
I mean, everything's been pretty organic in this country, man.
Yeah.
If anybody tells you, hey, 50 years ago, we had a plan of where we're going to be today, they'd be lying to you. It's been multiple decisions. I always say Costa Rica woke up one day and said, we have penicillin. They were never planning. That wasn't the plan, but it was multiple different decisions that they made through the country. And, you'd mentioned their national parks, from social healthcare system to education, to setting tourism up and just the bureaucracy here. It's just organically kind of grown. And I hope and I'm probably sure it will, that's going to continue in Costa Rica, because Costa Rica has a natural ability to reject stuff that's not in its DNA.
Yes. Yes. The world travel markets have evolved to a point where now they're looking at what's happening here and saying, well, look at that. And that's when wellness inextricably comes together with sustainability. If you're not in a sustainable environment, micro or macro level, it's very difficult to offer a wellness product. So Costa Rica has this amazing canvas for it. And again, to continue with the whole where it's going question, it's going to good places. I think that there's good enough people at the helm that we're not going to squander this.
Yep.
Starting with a lot of us in the private sector that are applying the right kind of pressure, but there's some good people in the government. I really have to. Again, I spend a lot of time criticizing, but there's some good talent in the government, and we're hoping that they're as passionate, as strong to protect and evolve.
Yeah, I mean, one of the great things about the government here is they haven't got that involved, if that makes sense. That's the kind of the beauty of it. I mean, they kind of do a little bit, but it's not like over pressuring, if that makes sense.
Are you speaking specifically about wellness and about sustainability, or are you talking about in general getting involved?
In general, it's a very laissez-faire government when it comes to business, if that makes sense. Yes, restrictive on taxes and stuff, but it's pretty relaxed out there.
Yeah, no, definitely. This is San Jose has gotten a little bit away from that, but this is a pretty relaxed country, and you can't have a relaxed country if the government isn't relaxed. So sometimes I wish they weren't so relaxed.
Yeah, but it's the beauty of it as well. It's the the strength also becomes the weakness, etc. Weaknesses.
Costa Rica has embodied the yin yang, and the yin yang is the balance and is the presence and is the key to true wellness. And it's something that comes from, I don't know if it's Taoism, it's definitely from Asia, from way far east, and we're doing it better now. So I hope that doesn't strike a bad chord with anybody, but Costa Rica is doing it better. And that's why I think that there's a lot of future and a lot of eyes going to be, if you're not looking at Costa Rica already, you will be looking at Costa Rica in the future when it comes to specifically wellness.
Yeah. My wife is in the world of childbirthing and I suppose, lactancy consulting and nature. I always say to her, I'm like, look, if I could start a business today, I mean, I could start a business, but if I had to start a business today and it was aligned with it, I think natural fertility, dude, is going to be a part of those vacations that are centered around that, but in a natural way. I think that that's a great business.
Listen, when we build a room, I know that this seems like it's not part of the same question, but it totally is. When we build a room, I don't want to put the Wi-Fi right next to someone's head in their bed.
Yep.
So when you're saying that your wife is, it's funny how you said it. You said she's into lactation consulting, childbirthing. I think I inverted that.
Yep.
And then you said nature.
Yep.
How often, when you talk to someone in an urban environment in the first world, will they put those three together? And the answer is more rarely than they should. So the cool thing is that that your wife sees it, and a lot of people in Costa Rica are here setting the stage for that to be, for you to think about where is that Wi-Fi antenna going to be located? Correct. Or maybe there won't be one at all. Like a guest will come in and say, I want an EMF-free vacation. Can you please disconnect everything in the room? Boom, done. Not only do we do it, but we're not asking the tech guy how to do it. Correct. Everybody knows how to do it because it's a standard part. And if you want that room to be free of any waves and you want to be present, but you also want to be free of all the crap, and you want to have organic food, and you want to have clean water, and you want to breathe amazingly clean air, and you want to have a beautiful discussion with a bartender at the resort that night. And by the way, I hate that word resort. I rarely use it, but this is a general.
I know what you mean. Yep.
If you get all that in line, including the Wi-Fi and Switzerland fought or still fights 5G antennas.
Yep.
They know their shit, man. Switzerland is one of the few countries, and Costa Rica needs to learn from them, that keeps all the best produce and products to themselves.
Yeah.
They don't export their best wine. You don't even hear of Swiss wine when you go to a supermarket or when you go onto a wine app or whatever. That's because they don't they keep their stuff. Their good cheese is there for them. Their good herbs, their organic herbs they don't want to export that. And yeah, maybe they have the wealth to be able to make that decision. But do you think Costa Rica will suffer economically if they keep 20% of their awesome coffee to themselves?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think Costa Ricans deserve to drink the best coffee, and very sadly, I would say 80% of Costa Rica drinks really bad coffee.
Yeah. I mean, I love coffee. I love coffee, man. I go to my local coffee store here and they roast it for me straight away and put it in my bag. And like, it's, yeah.
I get coffee here that I think you can't get it anywhere else in the world. It tastes like chocolate, but there's no chocolate in it. It's just the way that the grain is so rich and so beautiful that I think Americans get shocked. Kind of like the culture shock that happens when you travel. You can also get a taste shock where they're like, wow, what is this? Is this coffee?
Yep.
But it's damn good coffee.
I mean, I just got back from France. Me and my father were in France and I bought Costa Rican coffee with me and we were drinking Costa Rican coffee, but it ran out halfway through the vacation. And so we had to move to, French coffee. Yeah. So, and he was like, wow, I can really taste the difference now. And he typically drinks French, coffee, but he's just like, Rich, we need more of that Costa Rican coffee. So yeah, I know what I'm bringing next time we go. But I mean, what do you think of the tourism projects, and I say projects because it sounds very large, that are still missing in Costa Rica? Where do you think the gaps still are?
Again, I am into slow development, so I don't think of gaps.
Yep.
I think that everything as far as product is where it needs to be. So there's nothing missing for me. Where they're going to fill it in a little more, and I'm totally on board with it, is all this 5-star hospitality development. We're seeing that, Costa Rica, I think, has finally realized, it took a while. And again, this is probably gonna strike a bad chord in some people, but I surmise that the vast majority of listeners are very conscious and they'll understand. We don't want to compete with neighboring countries, whether it's El Salvador or Panama or Nicaragua or Colombia. And again, I think all those countries have beautiful, even El Salvador, yes, has beautiful destinations and places, but we don't want to compete with them because we have a few things that set us apart, and we have to really take advantage of that. And Costa Rica's finally realized that, and so that can take us to open up in different markets, including the 5-star market. So we're finally seeing more than just the Four Seasons.
Yeah.
In the next couple of years, you're going to see a boom in true 5-star hospitality.
Yeah, but I think the one thing that Costa Rica did do well is it set the stage for them being up in the Papagayo area. Like, it already is deemed where they are to be, because those are not being built in the central and southern Pacific areas. They're not being built, in Aranao, say. It's all in the northern Pacific areas where you fly into Liberia on private jets, basically, and then you go to those resorts.
Those resorts being done near Papagayo, you're right, are the I don't want to call it a stepping stone. They're the spark.
Yep.
But unlike the 5-star hospitality 10, 20 years ago, which used to go to one hotel, one destination, and stay there, this is no longer the case. I think that the majority of 5-star travelers are now doing a complimented vacation, which means that they're staying at least 2 properties. And that being said, Arenal does have 5-star hotels.
It has 5-star, but I'm saying it doesn't have those big names. Like, you've had to create those brands.
When those names come in with the names behind those franchises that are putting the money in there. So again, the name is Waldorf, Ritz, Marriott, the chains. But there's always these companies coming in that are generally putting in the big money for these projects to be done. And those companies are, and again, I'm not bad mouthing them, but they're coming in with a very, very clear business plan. very clear economical study on what's going to be done. And they cannot have variables. So, for that kind of an investment to be made. So they go with what's basically, a little cookie cutterish. And, if Papagayo set the stage for five-star hospitality, and it's, it has these beautiful beaches around, it's very close to the airport, it works. And for you to get these projects rolling with these big names, it has to happen in area. That's where it had to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that was not a mistake. It obviously had to happen there for a variety of reasons, but it will branch out from there.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I've kept you long enough. So my last question for you. Yeah, well, if you inherited $500,000 and you had to invest it into a business or real estate in Costa Rica, what would you invest it in and why?
Again, I think my answer will be very personal.
Yep.
And everybody's different. Like someone that is very financial or wants a very quick return or an immediate return would have a very different response for someone that wants to make a change of lifestyle. I think a lot of people come to Costa Rica, they're like, I'm going to Costa Rica because it's a good place to invest. But I would say the majority of them, additionally to coming here to invest, want to spend time here, whether permanently or they're like, I want to be traveling to Costa Rica. I want this to be fun.
It's a lifestyle investment.
So I think that I will respond based on that because I resound with that. I understand. I have a lot of friends that have come to Costa Rica to invest here. They want to make money. Obviously, they want their investments to be successful, but they also love the idea of being here. And I love that. I love that because I think that distinguishes Costa Rica from a lot of other countries that are good to invest in. Costa Rica is fun to invest in. And that's, for me, that hits a lot harder because wellness is important and it keeps your success going. Wellness is success. So if I had $500,000, well, obviously, investing in Tamarindo in the early 2000s was good. And then you had the golden age of that area and you had the $1,000 a meter properties. That went to Santa Teresa a few years later. And then it kind of like moved up to Nosara. And now after pandemic, we're seeing a lot of stuff happening just south of Tamarindo in Avellanas, near Rio Pedido. So, if you're looking to make your $500,000 go far, I would probably avoid those areas, but not by much. Geographically, when I say avoid, I'm saying, get 5, 10, 15 kilometers away from it. And that is far enough to have the prices go down. It's all a wave of expansion. So if you're in Avellanas, the wave's going to start to hit Playa Negra. It's going to go down to Junquillal, and eventually it'll get down to San Miguel and Coyote and hit the wave that's coming north from Santa Teresa. So a shorter answer to your question is find the places that are hot, move out, a half an hour in a car or bike, and kind of check it out, see what's going on there, see if it looks like, and if you have more time, go a little further because you're going to get more bang for the buck. So does that kind of respond?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's a great advice. I mean, we've had a lot of people saying that south of Tamarindo, going Avellanas, Negra, Junquillal, as you were mentioning there, north of Nosara, Ostinanal, even the Marbella, Coyote, Manzanillo, all those areas are,
I have a conflict of interest because, again, I like Costa Rica to develop slowly. So, like, you just mentioned like 3 names that are like in my secret book. I think they got better advice, more direct advice from you.
A lot of it comes from water infrastructure, and that's what people don't understand. That like development will follow infrastructure of water here in Costa Rica. And
but I think the people that have made the most money investing in Costa Rica have gotten there before the water. So I think that if you're able to get there, if you have that crystal ball and you know that the water is going to get there in the next 2 or 3 years, or that the infrastructure, the roads, like if you go somewhere that is fully and beautifully paved, close to the airport, has water, has electricity, has everything, you're going to pay top dollar and you can still make money, but you're probably going to be very dependent on developing very quickly, which is hard for people that don't have a lot of experience in Costa Rica. And, because if you don't develop quickly, you'll be amortizing your investment in this expensive small piece of land. because
Yep.
$500,000 is not going to buy you a lot of land in a hot area. But if you go a little bit off the beaten path, you just have to go there and kind of put your thumb in the air and say, this feels good.
Yeah. Well, cool. I very much appreciate your time as always, buddy. It's been great having you on the podcast. And if anyone wants to see the project you're involved in, I'll put all the links in the description down below.
Cool, brother.
No
Thank you for having
me. Not at all. Thank you. Very interesting podcast there with Gabriel Saragovia. As you can see, a leader in what I like to call the wellness world, and now also kind of the passive wellness world, as he would mention. We constantly talk about, new areas in Costa Rica to do interesting projects. They did an amazing one in Rio Perdido. If you don't know it, it's in the description, Rio Perdido, just a very unique property. But his family and himself have been in tourism here for generations. So it's always great to get his viewpoint and understanding wellness, kind of where it's going, and also kind of the projects, I mentioned there that I think that, that he mentioned that he thinks missing and where he would be investing money in Costa Rica, because I think he has a very unique viewpoint, and I think he's looking over a long period of time as well of where to invest in Costa Rica. But I hope you've enjoyed the podcast, guys. If you are, please give us a great review. If you want to get in contact with us about doing anything in Costa Rica or looking potentially investing with us, feel free to reach out to us, info@investingcostarica.com. That's info@investingcostarica.com. Until the next podcast, we'll see you later. Bye.
The #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.